Hey, MC here with a little unboxing video. So on the bench today, we have a new arrival. This one is one of the Bear Creek 10mm platforms. So I'm kind of excited to get rolling with this. Let's open it up, see what's inside. So, cardboard box, little tape. The box showed up in really good condition to my FFL dealer. Packaging inside, pretty secure. Nothing shows signs of bouncing around or making a mess. Little cardboard for keeping the firearm still. Actually, we'll just lift all of this out of the box. Again, packaging looked pretty good. Little foam over top of the muzzle. We had another block of cardboard here to keep the firearm from rattling around. We have got cable lock key. And in this one, we have a owner's manual. Paper printed, but look at that. Huge letters. So us old guys that might need occasional reading glasses should be able to see that just fine. So good parts breakdown. Gives you pretty clear cleaning directions and instructions. So we'll set this off to the side. Cable lock can go off to the side. Pull the firearm out. That's it for other packaging. The action is clear. No magazine. These are not sold with magazines, so you have to supply those yourself. And this one is the 10mm platform. So you can get a good close-up on that. So there really isn't a lot of lower receiver that doesn't need to be there. Magazine release on this. Put right in a familiar position for AR-15 owners, but yet it is set up for the Glock mags in the front. Takedown pins. There's a pair of those. Handguard. This one I believe is a 10-inch barrel in 10mm. The flash hider is also stamped on every other flat that it's 10mm. That would probably really mess things up if you were to stick that on a 45 ACP. Couple of rattles. So we'll probably tear all this apart. I think that might be the bolt carrier group rattling. There is a hold open tab on this back side. Yeah, we'll see what's making noise with it. Let's take the receiver off and get a closer look at the internals. So with the lower receiver removed, the pin-to-pin size, standard AR-15 for comparison, is the same dimensions. But you can tell from the magazine opening that this one is built specifically for the 10mm versus AR-15 platform. The trigger group appears to be the same. I'll get a trigger pull scale out and see what this trigger weight is. But otherwise, it is your 2-position safety a small buffer tube with a buffer weight and buffer spring, because even though this gun is a blowback design, there's no gas block, there's no gas tube, and the bolt appears to be one solid piece of steel. Looks like it's weighted in the back. I'm sure that's specific for the 10 millimeter. There's a roll pin in here, so I imagine if that weight needed to be changed or modified, you can do a little experimentation with that. Again, this one is a slick sides, so there is no forward assist. The charge handle is going to reciprocate with the bolt, and unlike the 9 millimeter versions, the 9s and the 22 long rifles, everything on the bolt carrier group is captive within the receiver, so you could go with an aftermarket folder and the mechanism will still function. The 10 millimeter, however, this mass does utilize the buffer tube and spring. So that is one difference between the 9 and the 10 millimeters. So it's going to be interesting. I've looked at the 9 millimeters quite a bit. Originally, when I started getting into purchasing pistols, I started out with a 380 ACP. A secondhand gun purchase then was a 44 mag Smith & Wesson revolver, and then I backtracked a little bit and went down to the Glock 20 in 10 millimeter. So 9 millimeter I pretty much just skipped right over. Let's get this bolt carrier out and we'll lay that along the side of a 5.56 carrier for comparison. All right, interesting enough, there is a staked gas key on the 10 millimeter bolt carrier group. And the upper receiver is machined out for a gas tube. But again, the barrel, this is the barrel we did the unboxing of last time. There's no hole for a gas port. So I'm not sure if Bear Creek had been doing some experimenting with the gas systems and chose not to put them on, but has provisions for them in the future should you need them. The bolt carrier groups, the bolt is pretty much the same overall length as the standard AR-15 bolt. The gas key you can see is in a little bit different orientation. The undersides, likewise, we don't have a bolt face that slides and locks into battery. This one has a blowback design, so that one's going to look similar to your 1022 or your Savage or Marlins. So we'll see how that holds up with gases and powder residue building up. There were some other YouTube videos out there complaining of or at least comments that occasionally the extractor would not purchase on the 10 millimeter properly. So again, this is a brand new gun, just took it out of the box. Firing pin, that is spring loaded, so it doesn't free float inside. So that ought to help avoid any hammer fire or slam fires when you drive things home. We do have the cotter key that appears to hold the firing pin captive. We'll have to remove the firing pin to see if there's any passages or any porting underneath this gas key. It could be that the gas key is just tossed in there to keep everything maybe from rotating, might be a guess, to help lock everything in the correct orientation so that we can get consistency with our extraction and our feeding. The inside of the barrel looks very similar to this. Well, this is the replacement barrel for it. This one is a 16-inch barrel. This one I ordered as a pistol with a 10-inch barrel. So I'll be able to change out the barrel length, and then I'll be able to run that across the chronograph, see what the difference is between the 16-inch barrel and the 10-inch barrel. Again, up on the next purchase is going to be a suppressor, or at least a forward flash noise can. So that's more things to come in the future. Typical Bear Creek, we just have a barrel nut underneath there that the screws tie into to hold the handguard in place. It's a fairly slim handguard, feels well constructed. It's solid. I can't crush it, but with my hands, it is M-lock. So I will add a little chunk of M-lock rail to the bottom of this, so I can one, use that as a bump stock or a slide stop for my hand, just so it's less likely to slide all the way forward and get in front of the part where the bullets come out. It does have some engraving on the back here with the Bear Creek Arsenal. Other than that, there is the barrel. Says it's 10 millimeter 1 in 16 twist. Similar to what the 16-inch barrel is. It is stamped at the end 10 millimeter 1 in 16. Other than that, there are no Bear Creek markings or any other nomenclature stuck on the barrel. It's pretty clean setup. The barrel's fairly heavy. Have not weighed it, but we'll get some rounds through this thing in another video and see how accurate it is. Again, yeah, it looks pretty well constructed. I like the fact that it is scaled up, designed to take the 10 millimeter magazines. So this is one of the aftermarket ones. Good purchase, locks in place. And it looks like the ejector is a pretty stout, solid piece of steel. We have 2 Allen sets here that lock that into place, and I imagine that we have some adjustability so that if we've got some problems with tuning this thing for ejection, that adjustments could be made. Whether we can cant it forward or back, or if there's spacers or anything in here, I'm not sure. For right now, we'll leave it as is, run it the way it's built, and see what we get. The upper receiver is stamped Bear Creek Arsenal, BC 10 millimeter, caliber 10 millimeter. This should be the same as their 45 ACP. I don't believe that we're going to be able to get any of the, I don't own any 9 millimeters, or at least as far as the Glocks go. So whether I'm assuming that the magazines are different for a Glock 2021 versus the 1917, 22, 23 models. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Seems pretty well built. We'll get her together, get another range day going, and go shoot some stuff with it. Of course, grips, they work, but they're easily upgradable too. Screw down in the bottom. The selling feature for me for this platform is, yes, it does take Glock mags. So your full-size 10 millimeter frame, you can easily interchange magazines from platform to platform. So that looks like a win-win-win-win all the way around. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a more in-depth actual shooting video coming soon.